because a lot of people think that there's some sort of beef, and I think that is what blew everyone away about this past Monday's episode, because he's created this narrative, that there's some sort of beef between him and I, that I've done something to him, whatever, and there's none of that. I've never taken anything from MacG. Never taken his money, his girls, his job, his car, his shine, nothing. Actually, my experience of MacG started back at YFM.
The first interview I had, he was still a young man. He was brand new in the industry. He had just been hired at YFM. I don't know if I was hosting the afternoon drive at Y or the morning show. And we sat down, and we're sitting down today. I think it's over 10 years, if not 15 years later. And I just want to say I am very proud of you, my brother.
Thank you, Spuda.
Congratulations on everything.
I appreciate it. It was actually your afternoon show.
It was an afternoon show.
Yeah.
Right? It was
DJ Stu on the Wild.
Yeah,
Yo.
on the Wild.
Yo.
That
was cold.
He just reminded me.
Like, I wonder if there was ever a radio show, ne? Benga T-Taxi. Maybe show ya. On the studio. Yo. It's full. You know what I mean? But, and understand this, that at the time, Sbu, you were obviously at the height of your career. Everybody wanted a piece of you.
Yeah.
But you, when I joined Y, you made time for me. And that is something that I'll never forget. I speak about it a lot wherever I go, especially when I talk about my early days in my career and starting out at YFM. Because, for us listening to Y, it was, the most amazing thing.
Yeah.
YFM raised us, right?
Yeah.
And we saw you guys as idols. And then you get an opportunity to work with your idols. It's just like something else. So when I got to Y, you were the first person who basically held my hand as a senior, as one of the top brands on the station, to say, listen, Chief, welcome to Y. Assam. Yeah? And I appreciate that. I remember my show was like graveyard, midnight, But I would be at YFM during the day because it was just cool. Like, we would just hang out during the day. And sometimes you would buy lunch and then say, no, go buy lunch and buy yourself and keep the change. You know what I'm saying? Like, that kind of experience, just, being able to be in your presence and have you as a support structure, starting out in a brand that is as big as YFM then was something special. So I appreciate that. Thank you for that.
I appreciate the fact that you've been the guy that you've become. Thank you for not disappointing us. I could hear that. I knew that you would become this, and I said it to you from when your career started. I was like, you are going far.
Yeah.
I could just tell from the beginning. This one is different.
Yeah.
This one is cut from a different cloth. He's going to be in this game for as long as he wants to. If he messes it up, it'll be totally up to him.
Yeah.
But that's why I just wanted to start there and say, congratulations. You've actually become even more than what I thought you would become, and even bigger and better.
Yeah.
And congratulations with everything. Even more.
No, I appreciate that, Spoo. And there's so much power in what you have done. Not just for me, for many people. Being able to make time for someone, to give them advice and guidance. I remember even with my TV career, I would have a chat with you about, doing auditions at SABC, for example, not getting the gig and, asking you, hey, Smuda, these people didn't take me, man. What could it be? And you used to give me the advice because, you were an icon in television as well. You've done some of the bigger shows on TV. Obviously, Friends Like These is probably the bigger show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that for me is important because you were teaching me something. You were teaching me about playing it forward and also making sure that you guide the younger people that come into the industry. And that's such an important thing. As it's easy to be all about yourself in this game because you pop, you become famous, You become popular. Everybody wants a piece of you, and now everything is about you. And you don't understand the power that you could play and having impact in people's lives. So thank you for that.
No, man, that's really awesome. Maybe let's start on Monday. Congratulations, that was a dope experience to have you or to see you on the MacG podcast.
Yeah.
Because I know your history.
Yeah.
I know when we were all working together and when you guys had your own brand.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the young people right now didn't know of your partnership with MacG. It wasn't just friendship, but you're also business partners.
Sure.
Maybe let's take it from back then and let's talk about the interview on Monday.
Yeah, man, what a crazy interview. And the thing is, MacG sent me a message. And he said, "Hey, my man, can you come in and fill in for me, on my podcast?"
Yeah.
So then, at first I thought, nah, this is probably like a prank, right? So I called him, and then it turns out it was him. And he said, "Listen, I'd love to have you on the show. I'm going away, so can you come and fill in?" I said, "Yeah, sure." Because a lot of people think that there's some sort of beef, and I think that is what blew everyone away about this past Monday's episode, because he's created this narrative, that there's some sort of beef between him and I, that I've done something to him, whatever, and there's none of that. I've never taken anything from MacG, never taken his money, his girls, his job, his car, his shine, nothing. Actually, my experience of MacG started back at YFM. I was doing my evening show, 6 to 9 in the evening, and I had a segment, like an entertainment segment where, you come on the show and you tell us about what's happening in the entertainment world. So MacG was the person who was doing that segment for me. And I was like, here's this kid, he wasn't crazy, he seems like a really cool kid, seems eager. Let me just kind of try him out on the show. And that's how his relationship started, with him and I, just having a segment on my radio show. Of course, he never did what he was supposed to do. Instead of telling me about entertainment news, he would come on as a kulma masima nje. So it says bet nje on air. You know what I mean? But that betting and that chemistry actually excited our listeners. And that's how the chemistry grew. You know what I'm saying? That's how our relationship grew. We hung out a lot together. We partied together. Been to his house, met his mom. It was just that whole thing. And when we started Rock the Girls, it was just like a natural progression of our partnership and our friendship. Starting this movement, of parties and releasing condoms and having a whole like brand just build and grow right in front of our eyes. Rock the girls, yeah. All the girls. Now, what? One of my best memories is when we did our first party, and a whole DJ Smooth, who was untouchable, offered to come and rock at our gig. And I was just like, and this was at Tokyo Sky.
Oh, Tokyo Sky.
Remember that?
Oh, I remember.
And
bro.
I was like,
I remember.
And I was like, Smooth agreed. Like Mac and I were just like, he agreed. We're blown away. You know what I mean?
I loved you guys.
Because we hold you in high regard. We just starting out our thing. You guys have done so much before us that, we're thinking, no, maybe let's earn our respect in the industry. And here you are supporting us. So that was beautiful, and I appreciate that. But our relationship stems from way back. Yes, maybe there are things that he, felt whatever about. I don't know what they are. But Mac and I have never discussed any issues. So, this is how you did me wrong. Because I think he knows deep down that our relationship has always been special. And people sometimes grow apart, but that doesn't mean, that you're beefing. Right? Listen, Smooth, you know that Mac beganga mameli. Mac jiyakana ndlebe namanje. One of my 2000, and I'm like, this guy's always been like this.
Yeah.
You've had many chats with him, sitting him down. I've done that. Oskido has done it. I don't think there's anybody who hasn't done it, right? And that's just in his nature. He's that kind of person, always wanting to push the boundaries, whatever. I've had many reasons to beef with him, but even with all of the stuff that's happened, I was like, nah. I'll give you a simple example. I remember we started a nightclub in Pretoria called Ekaya.
I remember Ekaya.
Yeah. It was myself, Greg Nate, who used to work with Black Coffee as his road manager and now has his own spots and clubs and whatever. Cisco Ribeiro of Sis and Jones.
I remember Cisco.
Yeah. So MacG was part of that project. And we were like, okay, let's open this nightclub in Pretoria and let's do this thing. So we decided to come together and do it. MacG decides that he's gonna go behind our backs and run this thing on his own, right? And now, when we're busy having meetings with the club owners that were selling the club, they're like, "No, man, one of your partners was here. That boy with the dreads." I'm like, we all look at it like, who? The boy with the dreads? Yeah. MacGyver, yeah, him. And we were shocked. So he went behind our backs to basically run this club idea that we were doing together. That really pissed me off, and he knows because I told him. But even with something like that, I still forgave him. We moved on, and we never had any issues. So I think a lot of people, don't know the full story, and I think there's a generation of people that don't know the history. He knows that, and he's taken full advantage of it, and it's created a scam. So I think getting on his podcast was obviously a big deal for his followers, and I think it was a nice thing, right? I think it was cool. I think even for me, I enjoyed myself. Usol, as someone I've worked with on radio, his radio career started on my radio show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that kind of...
And let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, when I took over from you at breakfast...
Yeah. Because our journeys are all intertwined, yeah.
Our journeys are intertwined. Now, let me tell you something. You at YFM for 2 years after you came back to the station, and you did breakfast.
Yeah.
It was a massive show. And when you left, I was tasked with doing the breakfast show at YFM. That was probably one of the most, incredible experiences in my YFM radio life. And having to follow through from someone like you was an even, bigger sort of experience. And I say that because obviously there was a lot of pressure. Naturally, it was a different generation, your generation, and then it's my generation. It was about bridging the gap between the pioneers of YFM in terms of listeners and the new wave of listeners that we were bringing in as a new generation. So that moment tested me in many ways. It tested me in terms of, my character, how to handle pressure, how to not listen to the whole idea. Hey, you're filling big shoes, all of that, because that can weigh down on a lot of people, right? So I had to really work hard at trying to learn how to manage that. First time doing a breakfast show, and so that was quite an experience, and I've learned so much from that experience. And going forward from that moment, they taught me how to handle taking over someone or taking over something when you're doing broadcasting, whether it's radio or television. So it was a beautiful moment for me. But I think bringing Saul on was also quite special because he was part of the Y Academy, and I thought, wow, man, this guy kuluma kakhulu, he's loud, and he's interesting. So
multilingual,
relatable,
in touch with the culture.
He's from Ekasi,
Yeah.
So we had a great run. We had a brilliant producer by the name of Tseko Musito.
Shout out to Seko. Is she still at SAFM?
Yeah, she's at Radio 2000
Radio
now.
2000
Yeah, she's
now.
at Radio
Shout out
2000.
to Seko.
One of the best radio people I've ever worked with as a producer and as an on-air personality. And it's so good to see that she's still in the industry. So, my relationship with Saul kind of started there, and we worked together for about 3 years at Y, and it was beautiful. So to see him also coming back and in the industry again, on radio, doing the podcast thing, it's great. You know what I mean?
Did you know how big MacG's podcast was? Are other people, because you know it and you sort of recognize it or experience it from a distance, it's different when you go sit in that seat and the amount of clout that follows you as soon as you've gotten off that seat. It's hardly like 3 days ago? I can just imagine, maybe, you know how it is because you've been on radio.
Yeah.
The first time you said at Metro FM, you're like, okay, I've been on YFM, but I didn't know Uguti, I can speak to the whole country and this type of feedback. You know what I mean?
You know what? Here's the thing, Spoo. You know this very well. Podcasting gives you an opportunity to build a community of followers, right? And that's what he's done brilliantly. And they follow him religiously. If they love you, it's because he loves you. If they hate you, it's because he hates you. So he's done well to get people into whatever he's on about, right? And I think that's great. So, I mean, I think even before the app came out, it was just like trending from the morning, the whole day. So, the impact that he has on his followers is massive. And those people are basically his mascots. Every one of those people that follow his podcast are his salesperson. He doesn't have to really do anything because people speak for you. And it's like with radio. If people love you on air, if they love your show, they will get other people to listen. You don't have to, oversell yourself and overstate the point. If your shit is hot, people are gonna push you. People are gonna tell other people about you, and that's the power of this sort of thing. So you're right. I think for me, the intersection of the different generations that exists on these podcasts, kind of made this whole thing special.
And let's talk about podcasting versus radio. Maybe that's a lack of a better word, or I'm not putting it the most perfect way. It's not like the other is against the other or the other is competing with another, because I kind of feel they all complement each other. I always say to even people who say it's the rise of the digital media, radio is dead. Radio will never die. That's what I always say to people. Radio will evolve though. Radio will have cameras in the studio. Radio will cut up some segments, and they'll live online. They'll become podcasts. But yes, because there are organizations that govern radio, and it's a very regulated space,
Yeah.
it's forever going to operate in a different manner
Yeah.
than how podcasts
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
But I'd like to hear your take as far as podcasts are concerned and radio.
I think I'll bring it down to access to content for people. Podcasts are a great platform and a great option for content. People take content from everything. A meme is content. The humor that people get from memes can easily compete with your radio show. You can have a 3-hour radio show and not make people laugh the same way a meme did. So I think the point is people have access to different content. Podcasting is another platform that people can gain content. The beauty of it all is that anyone can be a podcaster, right? If you have something to say on a particular topic or a subject or whatever cause, and you can get people's attention, it grows organically. Yes, there's things you can do to grow it, but if people love you, they'll follow you, and that's the beautiful thing. So I think podcasting is an excellent platform, even for radio and television broadcasters who perhaps can't talk about certain things because of the slots they sit on, the audiences that radio station speaks to. It's nice to sometimes have a platform where you can talk about other things that are not as prescriptive as you would be on the radio or doing a TV show. So I think podcasting is brilliant. A lot of people have asked me, why don't you do a podcast? You know what I'm saying? It's also like an angle. I think my cure and my cause, is the thinking. Sometimes it's important to overthink, but sometimes it's dangerous to overthink, because when you overthink, you miss out on opportunity. I've had many people approach me, do a podcast, but it's also got to be about what and the what and the how. You know why you're doing your podcast. You put out content every day because there's something that's burning inside of you that you want to get out there. There are many things burning inside of me, so I just need to find an angle and create a podcast to get it out there.
How did you get into Y, and also the evolution from Y to Metro, the differences in terms of you having to experience wherever you are from, Ekasi, to now the YFM, and
Yeah.
then also the evolution into even a much bigger national platform like Metro?
Sure. I mean, I got into YFM through a radio demo. So I submitted my radio demo. At the time, Bondo Ntuli was the program manager. And Bondo was
Shout out to
obviously...
Bondo.
Big Black was obviously, one of the icons at YFM. And he always did amazing radio shows, nighttime shows. I remember there was a segment called Sexa.
Yeah. The lady who was doing it blew up so much so that she landed her own radio show at Gagasi FM in Durban.
Wow.
She's still in Durban right
You know,
now.
I'd
She's
love
still
to meet
killing
her.
it.
I would love to meet her.
She's still killing it.
Yo, I'd love to meet Sexa. Yes, yes.
The sexaholic. Yeah.
Dala senza pizza ebusuku.
Yeah, ngiyakhumbula, yeah.
So,
Ngokusistoli wasebusuku. For the older generation, you guys know Sistoli, yeah.
Yeah. So Bondo was the program manager. He listened to my demo. He called me 4 days after I submitted the demo. And we had an interview. I remember it was a Tuesday afternoon. And I started that very night.
Sure.
Bondo said, if you're not doing anything right now, you can start tonight. And there I was, Monday to Friday, doing a graveyard show. Started on December 21st, 2005. That was my break at YFM. You were still there, Fresh was there, Rude Boy was there, Thomas, Unati, AK, Natty Nice. You know when I talk about that YFM lineup, Natty Nkuluma, Bafana,
Yo, my
Ewini,
man.
Afcon.
18, my man.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that was just So for me to be a part of that was just enough. That was just, I'm here. I'm in Genil. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I got into YFM. So I spent 9 solid years there. I was able to start a TV career because of the brand that I built from my YFM radio show, doing Club 808 on ETV, their first ever music show with Dineo Ranaka, a good friend of mine. So I think YFM opened so many doors. I got to travel. I got to work with brands. I got to DJ, make money, charge at gigs. Like it was just, I was living my dream, right? And those 9 years, Wanasbu, set me up for, I believe, the rest of my career. Everything I did in those 9 years set me up for the rest of my career. If those 9 years hadn't worked out that way, I wouldn't be where I am today. Everything I've learned on and off the field about success, failure, fame, groupies, love, money, helping out at home, all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? That experience for me was power. So when I moved from Y to Metro,
Maybe before you move at Metro, I also want to, because we're an educational platform, you were compared a lot to Fresh.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure, number one, it's quite a pat on the back because you're already compared to a great guy. But the comparisons, because as you guys move up your careers as well, you get compared a lot.
Yeah.
And some of you guys, it might end up hinder your mindset where you kind of like, ish, people are saying I'm trying to be like the next man, or you know what I mean? How did you handle that? And share with us that experience.
The beauty of it all is because I got to experience Fresh himself, it also made me, confirm in my mind that I am not like this guy. But I think when you grow up listening to radio a lot, you learn from every single broadcaster. So even as a listener, I've learned a lot from Fresh, right? Just as a listener, without even speaking to him, without even interacting with him. The way he did his radio shows, his breakfast shows at Y, and everywhere else he went from there. So there was a lot that I learned from him. And he was one person that, from a radio point of view, I idealized in terms of how you do radio. There's a lot that I learned from Fat Joe, the way he did radio, live and dangerous, There's a lot that I learned even from Natty Nice when he had a weekend show. There's a lot that I learned from you. So I think when you pick up different things from different people, you end up using that, and maybe subconsciously or consciously, it ends up sounding like them, but it's actually not. You're doing radio the way they do it, which is quality radio. When you listen to quality radio, that's one of the best ways that you can learn about radio.
And then let's talk about the evolution to Metro.
Yeah, so Metro got in touch with me a couple of times during my time at YFM. I remember Grootman Leo Mane.
Yes, Bra Leo.
Yes. Leo Mane was at Metro. He had asked me to come through and do one of the shows there. And I was only still maybe 5 years into my YFM career. And I was like, nah, man, Leo, it's still early. I'm still young, And then somebody else came back after Leo trying to get me to Metro. And then eventually, when I moved to Metro, Tony Soglo and...
Shout outs to Tony.
Yes. And Lubar Ramokolo, who was the head of radio then at SABC, got in touch with me. We had a beautiful meeting in Auckland Park. And I remember this meeting. I said to them, okay, guys, listen, I'm doing breakfast at Y. I don't care which slot you move me to right now, but I'm not doing morning. I'm not doing another morning show. Because Smooth, morning radio takes a lot out of you. People think it's just the content, and it's everything else.
It's your whole life.
Your whole life. What time you sleep, what time you wake up, your diet, your mood. Sometimes you're grumpy and you don't even know why you're grumpy. Because then it's the gigging, then it's your life. So I was like, I'm just tired, man. I need a break from that. But when I started at Metro, I started on an 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. slot, which was right after Glenn and Unati, which is not what I wanted, but I was grateful. And this is the thing, Spoo. I've never asked for a radio show. I've never said, hey, please give me that slot. Anyway, even at YFM, every show that I've ever done at Y has been based on the wisdom of the program manager at the time to say, hey, we're going to put this guy on this show. So even with Metro, I didn't ask for 8 to 10. I didn't even know. I was actually shocked because I thought, I'm new to the station and all of a sudden I'm getting such a huge sort of platform. So the transition meant you growing as a broadcaster, but you're also going to learn all over again. It meant, from primary school to high school. Manje now I'm in grade 8. Move Form 1. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what it was. It was, yes, you know a lot, but there's still so much that you don't know. So go out there and find out. And Metro turned me into an adult as a broadcaster and as a person. I got to learn so much. And again, working with people you idolize. I mean, Glenn Lewis is one of my icons, you know.
Shout out
And,
to Grootman,
you know,
Glenzo.
he was also one of those people that was so easy to connect with. He really just made it easy to be a part of the Metro family. Grootman, Wilson Binkosi, one of the most phenomenal people in the broadcasting industry.
Yeah, they also made me feel at home at Metro.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Wilson will check up on you
Yeah.
and shock you.
Yeah.
He'll just call you, or he'll email you,
Yeah.
or he'll WhatsApp you. And even you're shocked, you're like, Bra Wilson is checking up on me.
And sometimes he'll call you while you're on air.
Yes.
And
yes.
then then you're like, wow, bro, he's listening to me.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And he'll just check on you and say, hey, Mweti, how are you, sir? You know, man,
yeah.
you know what I mean? So that was brilliant. And I think there were a lot of people in the industry that I already had relationships with that were at Metro. So that helped a lot to get settled into an environment, to feel like you're in a team. And 8 wonderful years at Metro. Metro changed my life in so many ways. It elevated my career. It took me to places in the country I'd never been to as a voice and as a person. And I'm grateful for the time that I spent there.
And then right now you're on a new adventure, you're on a new platform, and it's not a lot of people that can do what you've done with your radio moves.
Yeah.
And evolving into this audience that you are with right now. And congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Look, joining 947 has been long coming, Smooth. I mean, when I was at Y, they used to call me, asking me to come do radio there. Even when I moved to Metro, a couple of times they'd say, no, come. But I always felt like it was about timing, and it wasn't the right time. Sometimes you wanna do certain things before you do other things.
I get you.
Yabona. Before shata wamelu chole man,
Yeah.
uhamba hambe. So to know what it's like to be out there. As a radio station, they run that place second to none, right? They're professional, they do proper commercial radio, they have great support structures. So I've always known this even before I joined the station, based on the way they ran it, based on what I heard on air and the many conversations that I had with people. So joining 947 right now, I felt was the right time. 8 years at one radio station is a good knock. And yes, maybe I could have added an extra year, 2, 3, but you'll never know, right? And I thought this was the right time. So when they reached out, I was like, actually, this is the right time. This is a good idea. Let me go out there and try it. What I love about a platform like 947 is that it's a mixed audience. Now, you've got black people listening, you've got white people listening, you've got Indian people listening, you've got colored people listening. So that racial mix for me is so cool. Because if you think about it, that's how I grew up. I went to multiracial schools all my life. Yabona. I've lived in the suburbs, I've lived there. So my life experience is exactly that which their audience mix is. So it wasn't like a difficult thing for me to settle in my mind that, now I'm going to go there, now I need to convince people. No, I don't have to convince anyone. The work that I do will speak for itself. So what a fantastic environment. And a lot of people talk about slots. They'll say, yeah, but it's 9 to 12. It's not breakfast, it's not drive. Any person that does radio and has a radio brain will tell you that radio is not about slots. Yes, there are slots that are more glamorous than others. You know this. But at the end of the day, a slot is a slot. And when you do that show, you do that show like you're doing any other show. You run your 9 to 12 show like it's a breakfast show or an afternoon drive show. You run your midnight show like it's an afternoon drive or a breakfast show. So that's always been my approach to radio. So the slot for me was not the issue. It wasn't like, 9 to 12 now. No. I was like, this is a brilliant opportunity to get into a space, learn what it's all about, and grow some more. You know what I'm saying? So I'm happy. I feel taken care of, and I'm looking forward to the rest of my journey there.
How many months has it been now?
So I started in April.
April, May, June, July.
Yeah.
Or hardly 3 months.
Hardly 3 months.
Yeah.
You see, here's the thing, right? As a radio broadcaster, there's things that you want to experience also. Certain levels of how things work. So, they have a very different way of doing things there. Everything there works. Everybody there is doing their job. They know exactly why they're there and what they need to do. And they take care of their talent. And I'll speak for myself. I won't speak for other people. but based on how I'm being treated, they take care of their talent. And I think it's important as broadcasters to feel valued, to feel like your talent is important, what you're doing is important, to also be given the tools to grow, to be guided, to be coached. I believe that, you know, for as long as you're working at a radio station, you need to be prepared to be coached.
Yeah.
Lionel Messi, even in his twilight years, still as a coach. And then you ask yourself, what can anybody tell Messi and Ronaldo about football? Nothing. But they still have coaches. They still listen. So you need to be coachable. And that's always been my approach. So I'm very clear on like this path. I feel lighter. You know what I'm saying? And you know, sometimes and I've never said this to anyone, it's nice to do a show that doesn't get attention like other shows. It's just nice.
But it's a lot of attention, bro.
And by
9
that
to 12.
Yeah, and by that I mean, like, you know, when you compare to breakfast and afternoon in the example I gave about,
Okay, I get you.
You understand the hype and whatever. Sometimes it's nice to just, and I feel like maybe low key I just needed a break from those kinds of shows, because that's all I've been doing my entire career.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, YFM, I did breakfast and afternoon. At Metro, I did breakfast and afternoon, 8 years combined. So maybe I just needed a.
Yeah.
Now, two things could have happened. I could have either taken a break from the industry and said, you know what, I need a year's off to go clear my head, or just do something different. And for me, that's what it is. A space where I can just be myself with no pressure.
I get you.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know now, but at some point and for the longest time, your platform that you're currently on has been the most highest grossing radio platform in the country in terms of revenue.
Yes.
Money.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, definitely. 947 performs well financially.
Yeah. And what you've been to other platforms.
Yeah.
What makes that? What do you think?
I think their sales approach, in other words, how they sell their inventory, their airtime, and how they monetize the station is very different to other stations. Somewhere it's similar, but somewhere they do something different. And I think they invest a lot, from what I've seen, in making sure that their clients, A, are happy, that they keep speaking to their clients to say, spend more, spend more, spend more. You know, in the first month or two that I'd been there, I'd done more road shows to different advertising agencies and clients than I'd ever done in my entire time at the SABC. So if there's one thing they do well at Prime Media is really sell. They sell their inventory, and somehow they have a good way of working with clients. And I think people misunderstand the fact that radio is a business, especially when you do commercial radio.
Yeah.
It's a business. It's nice to say, you know, umuntu khola X amount, but where does that money come from? Advertisers. So if you're not selling your airtime, if you're not selling space, if you're not finding ways to monetize your radio station, you're wasting everybody's time, including the talent. So when you're in a space like that as talent, then now you've got a role to play in making sure that people spend on the station. You know what I mean? When you go to clients and they're happy to see you because of who you are, some of them grew up listening to you. Some of them are happy that you're at 947. Some of them are sad that you left Metro, but they love you anyway. You have to bring your A game when you're on a platform like that. So from my experience, I think that's the difference. And if anybody gets into radio as a business, that's the thing you got to understand. At the end of the day, it's how many bums are on the seat. And they do that well there. They do it very well.
And now, through your experience of being on Y and Metro, now at 94.7, what advice would you give to I don't want to say I wouldn't, because I don't know if, you know, Metro FM is but what I know is that it's a business. They're trying to make as much money as possible, and it's great to hear from somebody who works at a station that makes the most money as far as radio stations are concerned. With these 3 months, what advice would you give to Metro FM sales team, or as a team, and YFM, or any other media platform out there?
Yeah, I think you know, there's many things that impact on how a radio station makes its money and how they sell and their sales structure. You know, every station in the commercial space has a sales team, people that go out there and sell the station.
Yeah.
So it's very important to have a system and a model that works, right? It's very important, especially for the SABC in general. You know, it's such an important platform. The SABC needs to exist forever. because it's important for the nation. And in order to do that, they need to bring in the money. So it's really just about making sure that the sales structure works for the business, that there aren't policies and bureaucracies that hinder on platforms making money. Because yes, they can make a lot more money than what they're doing now, for example. And I know this because I was there for 8 years. So I know. But I think there's a lot that needs to change, and I think they know, but there's many other factors at play. And, I've never been in management positions at SABC, but I've had a lot of interaction with managers over the years there, and that's the key. So if you have a sales structure that works for the model and the business, then you're going to thrive. But if you've got things that hinder, that make things difficult for clients, where people don't want to do business with you because, you respond 3 months later to stuff, or you just don't respond, or, things don't get executed properly. All of those things, mess up a radio station's potential growth from a financial point of view. Doesn't matter who you are, right? So you got to get that stuff in order. And I think that's where Prime Media as a business in general always get their things right. They put a lot of attention into the sales structure. They put a lot of attention into making sure that they're selling their inventory. No place is perfect, Spoon. I mean, there's no place. Nami South was born again. What is happening? Maybe there's things I'm going to discover. No place is perfect. But I think that's one thing they do there. And from what I've learned being at the SABC, I think there's so much potential for them to make more money. But there's just so many factors involved. Yeah.
And I think the strategy at Prime Media has worked over the years, because when I was coming up, I remember back then 94.7 was a white station. 702 was a white station. And, I can say white station because maybe there was just only 1 or 2 blacks.
Yes.
But now, if you experience these platforms, they're very multiracial. Does that translate into the listenership? What do the demographics look like as far as race is concerned?
You see, what I love about your question, Spoo, is that it creates clarity. So many people that I know personally and otherwise, every time they say to me, now you're 947, they'll say, hey, ukoding gamleng.
Yeah.
Ukoding gamleng, who's wrong that's in gamleng. I was chatting to Big Sky.
Yeah.
One of my best friends in the industry, you know what I'm saying? And Big Sky's like, yeah, who's wrong that in gamleng, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This information is public if you look for it, but it's there. 947 has a huge black listener population that even surprises me.
I think it's the biggest, ne?
Yes. So in proportion.
Yeah, it's the biggest than any other race, right?
So 947 has a massive black audience in proportion to the rest of the racial groups. Now, it doesn't mean that they say we want 5 black people and then 2 whites and then 1 Indian, 1 cut out of 10 people. No. It's just organically how it happens, and also based on their lineup. Look at their lineup. Anel is in the morning, but it's a diverse group. Tando's in the afternoon, but it's a diverse group. So the majority of the audience on 947 is actually black. And I think a lot of people who maybe don't understand these dynamics, are still stuck in that thinking to say, no, kidding gamleng. My first radio show at 947, felt no different in terms of the callers than when I was at Metro. I was like, I had people calling me from Cape Town, from Bloemfontein, and I'm like, wow, and daily there are black listeners that interact with me, and there are white listeners that interact with me, and there's Indian people, and there's everybody else, and that for me is great. So I don't know, what the future of 947 is, but I can say with clarity and certainty that a lot of their audience is black.
What have you had to adjust in terms of delivering content as a presenter?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because we grew up in a space, where we were told, when you develop content, it's for black people, right? The Metro audience won't understand that. The YFM audience won't understand that. They're not going to do things like that. When you do brand campaigns, they'll say, no, we're targeting this group, this SEM or LSM as it was called, and you have to speak to them in this way. So now you must craft your content and try and imagine but you're black. So for me, there was just a lot of contradiction in that. For me, it's about creating content. Create content for the people that are there. And if it's good content, people are going to love it. Whether they're black, whether they're white, whether they're Indian, it doesn't matter. So that's the key for me. It's about creating content for people. Not content for black people, content for white people. I mean, for if you look at Netflix, for example, right? It's a streaming platform. People watch shows, people watch movies. There's so many black people and white people that watch the same show. I've never heard Netflix say, hey, we're creating content for black people now, or we're creating content for white people. They just create content, and people who identify with certain things will go there. I've seen people, watch that Bridgerton show. I've seen white people go on about it. I've seen black people go on about it. You know what I mean? So content is content for me. And the key is to get out of that mindset of creating content for Daki. It's just, let me just create content. Let me just create content. I remember the other day, just a silly example, I was talking about manicures on my show.
Yeah.
Because it was National Manicure Pedicure Day. So I was saying, look, today is International Mani Paddy Day. So let me actually call my nail technician and just give her a shout out. Ngafone Lucy's Gugu. Gugu, I love your work. Thank you for doing my hands, all the time, brilliantly, whatever. But guess who interacted? Black people, white people on the show. Everybody relates. So that's the thing. Create content for people,
By the way, guys, ask him ukutubano amfaka kuma manicure.
Oh, by the way, no, I have to say this. So when I joined Y, Sbu used to do his hair at a salon called Nero.
Shout outs to Nero, yeah.
And Nero was just across the building from the Zone in Rosebank.
Yeah.
And, he is the one that introduced me to that salon. And I stayed at that salon even when they moved to Senton when I was Sbu.
Yeah.
Because of you. So, I don't even know how many years that is.
And shout outs to Nero, eh?
Yeah, shout out to
Dope
Nero
business,
because
man.
because so many people, well known and otherwise, you walk into a salon and there's Dr. Evan Koza there.
Yeah.
He's cutting his hair.
Yeah.
And then next day there's Sbu. And then the next day there is the Minister of Police. Then you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So many different people and it's a black business. That
Shout outs to the Takiles, man.
that
Actually,
for me,
the Takiles also are responsible for the start or for the creation of Voice of Soweto back in the day.
Really?
But the other brothers.
Wow.
Because the Dakile family is very successful
Wow.
in business.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think they have pioneered in different spaces in
Yeah.
this country. And I think it's one family that is not, I don't think they want the flowers. I don't think they're out there trying to get any
Yeah,
props from anyone. But I think it's those families that people or South Africans have to know about.
Yeah.
These are the type of families we have to celebrate.
Sure.
The one youngest who was the most popular would be Zach Dakile. Would know Zach because you're on radio.
Yes. That's beautiful.
It's actually one of the Dakile brothers.
Wow,
who owns
that's beautiful.
Him and his wife, yeah.
So when you see black people just naturally supporting another business that happens to be owned by black people, it's beautiful. Where it's no longer a thing. It's just, we are here, the service is good, and that's what we're doing. So thank you for putting me on. And at the time, Sashama cheese cup. When you get to the, you must understand that Minamkulele Dube.
Joy the spirit.
Kunde hostel.
Yeah.
So now you get to a salon where they give you like whiskey, they give you juice, they rub your head, it's like
Cappuccino, latte.
so starting in an industry and then having to experience that, like switch up. Like it's just something special and unforgettable. Yeah.
And I think what's great also, it upgrades you.
Yeah.
Because now you're in an environment with namakrutman, namasister,
Yes. Yeah.
And it also upgrades you without even you realizing it.
Yes.
That's why I always encourage hustlers out there, and I say it's important the spaces that you go to.
Yeah.
Upgrade yourself. Sometimes go for house shopping on weekends. Even if ungakhona afford lezo zindlu, but put yourself in those spaces. There's something that it does to you.
No, I totally agree with you. I remember that fashion was a big thing at YFM. When we had MacG's just outside the station, right? Now, here's the thing. That label was...
And MacG.
And MacG. Those two labels were uniform at YFM. If you were a YFM personality and you were not wearing any one of those, it's like you were not part of the family. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't have a double HP hoodie, you were not part of the family. So that level of upgrading that you speak of, that happened to me when I joined Y, because you had to absorb the culture. And it's a progressive, positive culture. It's okay, I'm going to look good, feel good about myself, be more confident. Figure baseline. Angeni as a move. I'm in the VIP section because I'm a fucking YFM DJ now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So act like one.
And I think with that being said as well, I need to give shout outs and props to one of the guys who used to work at the MacG store while we were YFM DJs, and he was just selling at the store. He was, he wanted to get on, but now he's still on Makolite. Remember?
Chocolate.
Yeah.
Yes. Who's still on Makolite used to call himself Chocolate.
Yeah.
Chocolate has one of the most fascinating, experiences in this industry, both in fashion and in music, and I think pop culture in general. And at some stage, he was even styling me. At some stage, Chocolate or Stilo Magolite was styling me when I used to do photo shoots and TV shows and whatever. So yeah, you're right. He made it look cool as well, and I think they got that right. And when things are supported naturally, people don't even need to be convinced.
Yeah.
They just follow, Baba. Young Tol, they
Yeah.
just go in. Yeah.
Still talking about black brands, I just want to big you up. I see you rocking a beautiful Chepa top.
Yes.
Tell us about Chepa.
Yes.
For those who don't know the brand, let's
Yes.
give them a plug because I also love their clothes.
Let me tell you, I picked this stuff up on Instagram. So the power of social media, in a positive way. And I was like, no man, these guys have like really nice designs. And so I sent a DM. I got a response immediately. I ordered, it was delivered. So I've got a few of these jackets.
Nice.
You know what I'm saying? I think this was about 1.2. I mean, it's not bad, honestly. For a thick, warm jacket that lasts for forever. So, beautiful label. I'm learning a lot about them. I'm experiencing what they're about from a fashion point of view, and I think there's so much. And this is the thing sometimes, right? The conflict. Now that we're talking about local brands, on the one hand, you want to support local brands.
Yeah.
And then you've got international brands like the LVs and the Gucci's and all of that stuff that make really nice clothing. And I think you can do both. I don't want to sit here and say buy local only because that's unrealistic. But what I want to do say is that when you see something that is local, that is really dope, don't second guess it. Just buy it.
Like this t-shirt. Bro.
Like this t-shirt.
How dope is this, bro?
In fact, I wanted to say when I walked in that this is really, really dope. You know what I mean?
Guys, but then again, sorry to get in, and sorry, sorry guys, ngiyaxolisa. Ngiyazi niyakwata when I disturb my guests. But guys, we have to give props where it's due. Local has upped its standards over the past couple of years. Big up to all of you guys.
Yeah, no,
have
it's
you
beautiful.
seen that, bro?
No. It's and for me, sometimes you can't even tell. You look at a brand and it's like, oh shit, I didn't know this was local.
Yeah.
Because you just like it looks good, it feels good, it is good, the look is right, the fit is right, the quality, whatever. So, oh no, the game has changed. And I think it's we come from a very humble point of view as local businesses in South Africa. And especially as black people, where we've had to go into spaces and humbly ask for space in spaces.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So in light of that, I think we've done really well. Because we come from difficulty. So everywhere last hamba corner, hat in hand, you know what I'm saying? But like what we've been able to do. Now imagine if we lose that humility. We're gonna be even more impactful. We're gonna have more power in our spaces.
But then we have to, keep this standard up. We have to keep this standard up because that's what takes us ahead.
Oh yeah.
A little bit earlier, we were talking about the professionalism and just how they run the 94.7 as a business, and it sort of translates. I mean, it does make sense somehow up to a certain extent why they make so much money more than even other bigger stations.
Yes, yes.
Because of how the business is run.
Yeah.
I think as much as we are black businesses, I really do think we can't keep cutting corners when it comes to quality, high class professional service for our clients, and just quality in our products, man.
Yeah, and the other truth, Spoo, is that when you experience a local product or service, some of them are new, some of them are starting out. I've been in a situation where I've done some work on my house and I've used black businesses, I've used white businesses, doesn't matter. In other words, businesses owned by black people or white people, and some of them have let me down, and they're white. Some of them have let me down, and they're black. But then when you look at the history of the business, you look, oh, they're new, they're still starting out, so they're fucking up here and there because they don't know, because they're learning. And maybe 3-4 years from now, they'll be better. So there's always that thing when you're supporting local businesses that you have to make room for, hey, that disappointment with Ish. But it was deliver Wednesday. Sego Saturday. You've ordered something for 10th July. And so those are the things you have to kind of make room for. But be that as it may, I think there's a lot of quality, quality products out there.
Let's talk about the gigs now. Now that you're 94.7, have the promoters or have you always done multiracial gigs, or have those gigs started coming in even of spaces that you haven't been to before, even though you've been on radio for almost 15 years now?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. At the moment, I wouldn't say I have a multiracial gig, or a stream of multiracial gigs. I don't know the reason. I still gig, for predominantly the market that I've always gigged for. So this past weekend I was in Rustenburg, and then I was in Pretoria, and I was in Joburg. The other week I was in Port Elizabeth. The other week I was in Polokwane. So even when I went to 947, I still found myself gigging just the way I always do. Yes, there's a lot of education, and this is where you need to look after your brand. There's a lot of education that you have to do with promoters. Some people think, now that use 947, sekafuna ukuyodlalela ingam la kuphela.
Yeah.
Yabona? Then manje angeke isambiza thina ngoba hayi lo muntu no. Your brand stays intact, and the key for me is to remain intact. Ravi Naidu, who's the station manager 947, said to me, dude, I'm not bringing you here to change you. I'm not bringing you here because I want another version of you. I want the MOFLAVA that I heard at Metro FM, the MOFLAVA that Randall Abrams was raving about, saying, hire this guy. You know what I mean? That's the guy I want. So don't change. So I haven't changed. So even for promoters, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to get there all of a sudden, singdlali pink, geeking. Because no. For me, my DJ brand has grown largely as a result of the platforms that I sat on. And all the years that I've put into my DJ brand are still, bearing fruit today. And I'm grateful. All the promoters that book me, the venues that give me residencies, people that book me, the festivals, I'm eternally grateful for the support. And even for people that still book me to this day, regardless of where, because what's Boone, nothing prepared me for fame and popularity. And I don't like talking about it because I never got into this thing because I wanted to be famous or whatever. So sometimes I still get shocked. When you're at a gig and you're playing a set and people are saying, MOFLAVA, it still shocks me. And I'm like, yo, Buffett, is this me, man?
Yeah, same here.
Slicker.
There's still those days where I'm like, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love Slicker because he always says, even Slicker can't believe he's Slicker. So I've stolen that.
Yeah.
I've stolen that thing. You look in the mirror and you're like, yo, MOFLAVA, I can't believe you're MOFLAVA. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? So that stuff really makes me feel good, and it humbles me to know that people still support me. Some people will say, I'll go to Bloom, for example, and people we don't get 947 here. Yeah, you can download the app and you can tell that to people. It's fine. But they say, we miss you on the radio, but we still love you. And that for me is enough. That for me is good enough. You know what I'm saying? When you get to Port Elizabeth and people are like, we love you. We don't always get to hear you because, you're not on a national platform, but we love you. And that for me is enough. So the gigging has been great, but I can't wait to go to the white gigs. I think I need to speak to Fresh. Whenza kanjani? Ingam uzingena kanjani? Exactly. But how do we enter these people?
They've mastered it though, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Consistently for many years. Shout out to MacG.
Consistently. And I think there are people in the industry that you can take and use as blueprints in terms of how to do certain things. And in terms of that DJing space, being able to hit different audiences, markets, etc., those guys are right up there.
And let's talk about what do you play? Do you play piano?
Yeah. I play piano.
Oh, you also play piano?
Oh, I love it.
Oh, let me ask it this way: do you still play house?
Yes, I do. Okay. So it's so weird, Spoo, because right now there's an interesting shift in the space where a lot of people now crave for house music. A lot of people at gigs, they want to hear a house song, because what's happened now is that the advent of piano has created a situation where the resident DJ and the resident DJ after him and after her and after her and after him are all playing piano. So by the time you as Smooth comes through on the set and you also play piano, people are hard for and if there's no hip hop DJ or anyone else playing anything else, it's going to be piano the whole night, which at some point was great, and it was the case. But now what I've realized, what I've learned and what I've observed is that people want a break.
I get you.
You know what I mean? They don't want piano the whole night. And so there are gigs where you get there and you've had 4 or 5 piano DJs playing before you. So then you play house.
I get you.
And that's what I do. So I always have a house set. I was in Rustenburg recently, and on the same lineup was DJ Terrence.
Yeah.
And Terrence was playing a deep house set, and it was beautiful, and him and I were chatting about this sort of thing to say, and he was shocked at my set that night because I played house, and he was like, bro, like your set. I'm like, my guy, I still collect the music. So I love Ipiano. I think Ipiano has revolutionized so many aspects of the music game. And you would know because you're a part of it.
Yeah.
You know how the music industry works. It's revolutionized it in terms of the sound, in terms of music, how it's made, how it's consumed, how it was released. Hey, Baba, like so many things. So I'm grateful that I was able to be in a space where I could witness that culture start. I remember, I think I must have been the first people to play Amapiano on Metro. And this was probably 2016 early. And I remember playing the stuff, and people were like, what is this? Some people were like, we like this. Some people were like, what is this? Because there was something that I picked up in the sound, and I thought, wow, this is actually cool. And Given Gillespie, they had a label with Colin, born in Soweto.
Yeah.
And they were releasing a lot of Amapiano compilations. And I was like, this is amazing that somebody has taken the sound and started to commercialize it. So I've seen the beginning of the genre with Abu Gaba Canel, and Kabza, and all the guys that basically Demtuda that started in the space. And I think what it's done is amazing. So, Mina, that's what I play, but I also play house.
I get you. But how do you know and when to know which gig, when to play house, when to play piano?
So my trick is to always be prepared. When you go to gigs, take all your music.
Okay.
I mean, man, just something I must stick.
Yeah.
So there's no excuse to say, no, I've got, a vinyl for house, then I've got a bag for hip hop. 2 sticks, 1 stick is all you need these days. But put all your music there, constantly listen, collect. When you get those links on email,
Yeah.
when guys are sending you music, download and listen.
Yeah.
Download and listen. You'd be blown away. When people send you DMs, on social media with music, download and listen. Because that's how you collect. So constantly collect music. Constantly speak to guys in the game to say, hey, send me music, please. I always speak to the MFR Soul guys. I'm like, Abafit, send me music.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, when I bump into guys, just for example, be like, yeah, man, send me your stuff,
Yeah.
So that's what I do. And I carry everything when I go to gigs because you never know. Sometimes you get to a gig at 3 and you're like, oh, where am I going to take it?
Yeah.
You can see like, but you're coming, so then you decide. So you got to read the crowd, which is a basic, and you've got to carry all your music, which is another basic.
I get you.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of Amapiano artists now. I remember at a time when one would have like maybe even 10 gigs a week or 5 gigs a weekend. I watch Amachita now and the guys are killing it.
Yeah.
And it makes me happy that the guys are killing it, especially in Ntwana Zetu. But then somehow I feel like ngathi ngasihlebele in Ntwana with Eman. It's not always going to be like that. That show money is not always going to come.
Yo,
Are you doing something for a rainy day one day?
Yeah.
Because as you grow older and as these gigs become less and less, you're going to miss those days when you used to have all these checks. And it's easy to take them for granted when you're still young,
Everybody goes through waves in the industry. It's like a wave. Like, there's the crest, and then there's also, at the bottom. I think they call it the trough. I'm not sure. Don't quote me.
It's cool, bro.
That's how you're getting something.
I'm good, but now sometimes
He's making words up. So we all go through that in our careers, whether it's as DJs, as radio personalities. So I think it's important for the guys in the Amapiano space to understand that as well. That your career works in waves. There are times when you're hot, and there are times when you're not hot or number one, but it's okay. But have a plan. Save money. LVs and Gucci's are not everything. Drinking every day, all day, getting to gigs drunk, missing gigs, is not going to build longevity. It may look like it's cool now, but in 5 years' time, when nobody wants to book you because you miss shows, it's not so cool. And it hurts me when I hear promoters complaining about guys missing shows. Spanban akafikanga because he said he's sick.
And but they even say, Usbanbani and Agaze.
Yeah, Agaze.
Exactly.
I mean, how can you have a reputation of not showing up for gigs?
Bro.
And then think you're going to be in 5 years' time? Fuck out of here. You're not. And we've seen it. There's songs that blew up in 2019. piano songs. Some of those guys are nowhere. And by nowhere, I mean they're not as popular as they were. They're not number one. They're not being played on the radio. They're not being booked as often. So now what? So some of those basic things are important. Respect the industry, respect the craft, work well with people. Doesn't matter who you are. People, you hear stories. I get calls from promoters on a weekend. Umuntu athemfethu, we book so and so here in East London. Yes. Can you come? Can we book your flight? Because now the manager says they've got another gig in Namibia. You're like, can you? People complain. You get those phone calls. They're like, so and so didn't pitch. Can you help me? There was an artist that was booked in Lesotho, and I won't mention names, right? Because I don't know why it happened. But the promoters were panicking, and they called me. They said, Chief, Mutona Mutol.
Yeah.
It was hell. So I don't know where that comes from, because I grew up in a space where I was guided by the likes of you, Fresh, Vinny, Christos, you know what I'm saying, Oskido. And
all those people are still gigging till today.
And I don't remember people complaining about you guys missing gigs. Yes, maybe it happened here and there, but it wasn't like what's going on now. Do you understand? And in fact, there are people who say to me, never miss a gig. And I understand why, because it's your reputation. So this culture, needs to change for their own good.
Yeah.
Because you don't want a situation where 5 years ago somebody was, the star of the show, and then the next thing, they're not, all because of their own doing. You don't want that. Yeah.
And because there's also other people you find that would be, lack of a better word, called one-hit wonder, but they're thriving in the industry.
Yes.
Well, because of how their management takes them seriously, and how they take themselves and their art seriously.
Yeah.
Because you have to run yourself as a business. You are a business after all. I book you. You say you're going to come back to me. You only come back 3 days later. Oh, then I have to call you again.
No.
It's like you're hustling backwards. You're missing money, bro.
Smooth. It even goes as far as, I remember doing a gig with one of the tourism brands, right? And they'd booked an Amapiano group to come perform. And it was a whole thing. And when the guys got on set to perform, they were all drunk.
Sure.
The manager was drunk. The driver was drunk. The artists were drunk. It was a mess. And I'm like, how about it? Like, like, what's happening? Like, hey, mfanas lalanga. So, I don't know. It does boil down to management, but also listening to good advice. And I'm pretty sure that all these guys have people in their lives that tell them things, but maybe they don't listen to them. And I think it's important to take good advice. You don't have to listen to everything everybody says, but just at the very least, take good advice. That's the thing.
Do you invest?
I try. So I have a very different approach, right? In terms of that. So, for example, putting money away and investing in things that that make sense in terms of how your money gets used and where it goes, right? Stocks, etc. So that stuff is always important. It's easy. You find a fund, you put the money there, and it does the work. You don't have to do anything. You get your dividend or whatever the story is, and that's fine. And saving and putting money away has always been something that I've done. It's important. Again, purely because it's a wave, this thing. It's a wave. But also, it's nice to know that you put money away. Because a rainy day can happen any day.
Because also you're a father, bro.
I'm a dad. I've got kids. I've got things going on. Things happen. Sometimes things that you didn't plan for. And then you have to pop out lots of money. So, those are the things that you have to save up for. Sometimes you save not for something in particular, but for anything possible. Save. It's not always easy. There's so much pressure in our industry, Smooth, to always look good, to always be dressed, LV, live in the biggest house, drive the nicest German car, and all those things are money you're spending. And if you get sucked into that, you're never going to have money.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
You're going to have to keep up with, with the Joneses forever.
Exactly, and you
Hustling
can't.
backwards,
It's, for me, personally, like that's just not me.
I get you.
I own the house I live in. That's important to me. It makes no sense to me to be wearing expensive clothing, right? If I don't own the things, the important things like property, etc. So I'm not saying let's not buy fancy clothes. Let's buy them, but let's also save money. You know what I mean? And let's also make sure that we are thinking about a rainy day. And you know, rainy days, not days when you're not gigging or days when you don't have a radio gig or a TV gig. It's when shit happens, where you need money, like lots of it, and you need to be able to access that cash. Yeah.
Proud of you, bro. Thank you so much for coming through, and I'm very, very inspired by everything you've achieved and the man you've become. Can you continue? I just want you to continue inspiring other kids out there. And before we wrap up the show, I want you to speak to younger Mo's out there, guys who still want to be on radio, guys who are still on community campus radio, or guys who are on regional radio would like to get into the platforms that you've gotten to or the heights that you've gotten yourself to.
I mean, here's the thing. You need to be honest about why you want to get into radio or television. But just be honest. If you want to do it for the fame, do it, but do it well. If you want to do it because you want to have impact, then that's your reason. So know why you want to get into radio. And there's nothing that beats guidance. Ask. I always make myself available to people in terms of knowledge about the industry. So you can hit me up on Instagram. Ask me questions. I always have, radio demo workshops where I bring young people in who want to get into radio and I help them record radio demos. So look out for those kinds of opportunities. Keep yourself, switched on in terms of what is happening in the industry. If you want to work for a particular radio station, know who the program manager is. Know who it is. Know their name. Know their surname. Look up their email. Right? Craft your career in such a way that you have some sort of direction. If you're going to put a demo together, have in mind where you want to work. And ultimately, always remember that if you want to have longevity, you got to be consistent, which means you've got to show up all the time, every time you're on air, as often as possible, and be 100% more often than not, which is not easy, but it's doable. So respect the craft, respect the industry, respect the game, and always be willing to learn. Without turning this into a sermon, because Usbu does that very well. He does that very well.
Remember, I used to pray at gigs back in the day.
But that's what I would say. And radio is alive. It is a brilliant space to have an impact. And think of all the icons that we have in our country and how many of them were born on radio, how many of them were radio stars to get to where they are. So radio is a powerful platform, so go for it.
Radio has changed our lives, guys. We're here because of radio. We took advantage of the opportunity. We applied ourselves, we showed up, and we showed the world what we're made of with just a little talent that we thought we had, and God had actually given us greater than what we thought we had. And today we have these men that are sitting here that have diversified into all sorts of different things, but literally radio has changed our lives. And that's why I always say to you guys, radio will never die. Here's a perfect example of it. Thank you so much, my brother.
That's what's good.
Keeping your radio brand clean. Your brand of radio has always been remarkable.
Thank you.
You've always been witty. You've always been sound prepared all the time on air. There's just something about you that sets you apart. What can you say? Can you pinpoint something?
I don't know.
You can't, no?
I can't. It's difficult. And I know that you always have to know why you're good.
Yeah.
Yes, there's things that I know that I do, like being consistent, preparing well, reading a lot, listening well, listening to a lot of radio. You have no idea how much listening to a lot of radio can teach you, even as a broadcaster.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give a simple example. The late Eusebius MacG, one of the most brilliant broadcasters that I've ever known.
Hey,
and I've only known him in recent years. I'm only talking 10 years ago, right? He stint at Power and 702 as a broadcaster. I learned a lot from the way he does radio. Informed, well researched, the way he debates, how he carries debates. We learn it. You know what I'm saying? Even as broadcasters, we learn from each other. So when you listen to a lot of radio, I think you also learn a lot, and that for me is one of the key things. It's okay to have people that you love when you are a radio broadcaster on the radio. So listen to them.
Yeah.
I enjoy a lot of people. I mean, Ayanda MVP.
Yeah. Shout out to Ayanda.
I think she's a star. She's a radio star, and I really hope that her career just grows, and I know it will. That's one person that I really, really rate as a radio broadcaster. I really enjoy her. Clement Manyatela on 702.
Clemsa is dope.
Love Clement. I think he's absolutely brilliant.
Mr. Clement, I can't wait to have you here, by the way. We spoke about it over a year ago. Let it happen.
Yeah. So when you listen to people that you enjoy, that do radio well, then you learn a lot as well. But But that's the thing. So I appreciate the platform as well, and I appreciate being here. You are one of those people that have had a profound impact. There's so many other stories maybe that I've forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
Today was an educational platform. So
Yeah, yeah.
if we were on another platform, this is a ring. I love the fact that today we focused on education.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and let me say, Uti, you know, when we talk about hip hop, and there's always that top 10. Mina Mo is in my top 10 as far as best radio broadcasters of all time in South Africa. And keep it at that.
Thank you.
And maybe let me say one more thing. I think with the hard work that we put on with MOFLAVA over the past 9 years, finally people are now calling it MOFLAVA. They used to call my drink MOFLAVA. MOFLAVA. So it's said a lot about what you've done.
No, it's fine. That means Katelo gives one more fire.
I love you, bro. Thank you, man.
I love you, my dog. Thank you so much. Nice one.
Ladies and gents, MOFLAVA. See you on the next video.